Hey guys, this is Tevin from Simple Forex Options. Yeah, it's Tevin from Simple Forex Options, and this is a video I was randomly thinking about, just kind of putting out there and making, so that you guys can probably benefit for in some way, shape, or form. As you guys know, if you look back on my channel, you will know that I have, various videos talking about trading the news or news trading strategies and things like that of that nature. And they're very vague explanations when it comes to the news. They're not like, of course, like specific, microscopic instructions. So, what I kind of wanted to do today was to kind of give you guys a couple of tips that you can maybe use in your trading to kind of get a gauge of where the news will go. Most of you don't know, but in my group we trade NateX, and because we have been doing a scalping method lately, which means that it will be $25 risk or $20 return. We kind of recently we're going to move over to $30 risk for a $25 return, and that would just be an 83% profit on your investment. But because we are looking for volatility in the markets with a trend, um, we trade during the news, and we've actually found a lot of times that the news actually helped us out in our trading, so that we could better so we could better get out of positions a lot quicker. So the volatility, the spikes, all that kind of stuff, it would take hit our take profit targets, and we usually be taken out of the trade, and we'll be in good hands. Now, one thing I wanted to note first is that if you look up here, you can these I use Forex Factory personally. They have news sites like investing.com and different kind of news sites, but the reason why I don't use them is mainly because there is so much news. Like, it's a whole bunch of stuff, and I would prefer that it be kind of like a little bit that you look at, like as far as currencies wise. So Forex Factory tend to have a lot less news events than some other news sites that I've personally found. That I could say that, but that could be true or untrue. I really don't know. Now, first thing I kind of wanted to mention is you want to use the pairs that you trade, and this could just be an add-on for your personal charts. But because our trade hours or trade our trades tend to be an hour to 2 hour expiries, I just put this chart right here where it says last 6 hours. And if you were to click on it, you can see that a box will pop up. You could choose chart last 6 hours, and it'll be in 30-minute increments, which means that every candle that you see on this list right here, or every little candle that you see under the Euro USD, whatever it may be, all of those is 30 minutes each. And I just leave it at that. And what you'll notice is that it gives you a gauge or an indication of the direction that the market is moving in overall. So if I were to look at the Euro USD, you'll notice that the Euro USD is currently in a downtrend. And I think typically what this means is like 8 pips below, maybe it's starting where it started at in the first 6 hours. So that's probably what it actually means. Right here, it could be GBP USD. It started up here, and you'll see that it's probably 32 pips below where it started at in the beginning of the 6 hours. Um, the reason why this is very important is because you can actually use this as a trend indicator, which means that if you see that this is 8 pips below and it's a downtrend, you can actually use that as a gauge of what kind of decisions you want to make in your trading, which means that you only trade puts or sells when the Euro USD is negative. The same thing with GBP USD. You only trade puts or sells when it's negative. And if you were to go to the USD CHEF, you would see that it's positive, which means that you will only trade calls. Technically, all this is you're just trading with the trend. And in doing that, you will find that you'll be more so, your probability of winning would be increased drastically because the markets is more apt to go in a certain direction. Same thing with here. The markets is more apt to go in a certain direction, so you wouldn't trade puts, sales, whatever it may be. Now it has a select few pairs up here, but if you only trade like a couple pairs and this pair is now up here, like let's say I trade a Euro JPY and I don't see it, all you got to do is click on that box and you would type in the instrument that you want. Bam, you see that box pop up. You just click on that, you press save, and it'll switch it to the Euro JPY for you. Now, one thing I kind of wanted to talk about, just to get more in depth, is that when you look at these news events, you want to find out how the news events would respond. And a lot of times that's hard to do because nobody knows the future. Not a lot of people can make those decisions to say that, okay, the news events will respond in this kind of way beforehand. So it's like you have to wait until the news come out to see how it affect the markets, how to respond, and all that kind of stuff like that. Now, generally, what we look for is that if a news events, if you see that this is green when a news event finish, you'll notice that that's good for the currency, which means that the currency is going to should strengthen after that news event. The currency should strengthen a bit, which means that the market should go in the direction of that currency. And if you guys haven't watched my old videos, the way that the market direction is determined based off of GBP, like it's based off of currency strength, which means that if the GBP is stronger than the USD, then this whole pair alone will be in the uptrend. But if the USD is stronger than the GBP, then that means this whole pair alone will go in the downtrend. If these two are equal in strength, you will see something more so of a sideways movement, and you will see something close to like the USD CAD, which is -4. That's really not that much. It's not that much of a decrease or a downtrend. You see what I'm saying? So the point that I'm making is that the news events are supposed to determine currency strength. And let's say that if I were to go to the USD CAD, it says high impact, yellow means low impact, red means high impact, and orange means medium impact, as you can see. And let's say that the Canadian dollar has high impact and it comes out positive, which means that 0.9% comes out positive, which means that it's going to be on, I guess, on the winning side. All you would have to do is look at the pair, and you will notice that the USD CAD may go in a minute or even an elongated downtrend. As you can see right here, it spikes down, these two little candle bars, whatever, spikes down, and that probably could be due to the news from the Canadian dollar. When it comes to reading the actual news, though, one thing I kind of wanted to toss out there is how you can get a gauge or try to read into the future when it comes to news events. And I know that sounds crazy because most people would be like it's impossible, which technically it is. But Forex Factory, from what I've seen, has some really good tools that should be able to help you out. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. Now, let's pull this up real quick. When you look at, and this is all I did was click on this little folder, bam, right there under detail. And when you look at, you will see a couple of things right here. Is measure says changing the price of goods and services purchased by consumers. All it does is just tell you what the news is. The usual effect, it says actual, and technically what it's telling is if the actual is greater than the forecast, that means it's good for the currency. As you see right here, this is the forecast, is at 0.3%. This is the actual, ends up at 0.9%, which means that it's good for the currency. And also it tells you when it's released, about 20 days after the month end, all this kind of stuff like that. And this is just small stuff right here just to kind of help you out. You can check those out because it'll probably give you a gauge of how impactful it could be on the markets. But one thing I kind of wanted to note right here, if you look over here on this side, and even if you look over here, you will see that there's a thing that says previous. And if you look at previous, you'll notice that there is a kind of a consistency that goes on in every single news event. Like, for example, you'll see previous right here was negative 0.2%. Previous right here was negative 0.2%. Then it was a 0.1%, 0.2%, negative 0.4%. And this was back in January 20th. Of course, the actual came out much greater than these values in this occasion. But let's say that you were down here and you were trading and you started this off in September, and let's say that you saw a trend of negatives on this chart. And I'm actually talking about trend as if it's an actual candlestick. But let's say that you saw a trend of negatives on this chart. What you can assume, and I'm not saying it's set in stone, but what you could assume is that the next news event, unless something drastic has happened that we probably don't know about, you could assume that the next news event will probably come out in a negative as well, because the negative versus positive in this is almost overwhelming. If you see right here from December 18th, 2015, all the way up to January 20th, 2017, this certain news event has negatively impacted the Canadian dollar over probably the past 2 years, every single month or almost every single month. So the assumption could be made is that the very next month that comes out will probably be negative as well. And the reason why this is important, and like I said, it's not a set in stone kind of thing, because as you can see, this actually had a change this month and actually came out 0.9% positive. But this can be used as a gauge to be able to, so that you as a trader can make your decision before the news event ever comes out, and you can be able to possibly profit off of that. Now, this is actually because we trade during the news now, and we're looking for scalping opportunities and all that kind of stuff like that. And most traders would see that the market will go in our direction of the news, like the news will actually help us out. But I haven't mentioned to them that this is actually what I've been doing. I will look at the news and I would try to find out what's been happening the past couple months, the past couple news events. I would look for a trend in what usually this news thing comes out as, and I would try to use that as a gauge of how the news would affect the markets today. So, like for example, we could use another one right here. You will see, if you were to look at this chart, you will see that it's kind of more so break even in the kind of effects that it has. But let's look at just the past 4 months alone and the new home sales. You'll see in the past 4 months alone, from October, November, December, and January, that it has been negatively impacting the markets, which means that the markets has been moving more so on a negative. I mean, this new home sale has been negatively impacting the markets for this news event, which could also mean that another negative has a 3 out of 4 chance, or 75% chance of it being another negative, which if you were to actually look at the actual for this month, it actually came out negative 550K. So when you see the past 5 months, 4 out of 5 times this news event have come out negative. So that can also be used as another gauge, just looking at the recently past months and how it's been affecting the markets and all that kind of stuff like that. And what you could use as a gauge also too as well. You have to also too be careful when things show neutral, and neutral could also mean positives for the market. And what I mean by that, like for example, let's go down here to March 23rd. You look at March 23rd, 2016. You'll see that the previous was 502K, right? Which at that time was probably positive. Let's say that's the case. That's what the previous rate technically ended up being. Or so when if it was 502K, right? And you look over here at the forecast, which means that what they expect the report to come out to be 512K. If that's the case, and it comes out 512K, it would show right here, it would show as if it's even, and it'll show neutral, which technically it is neutral in comparison to the forecast. But if you were to look at the previous, in the past month, this news event actually increased 10K technically. And of course, I'm not going to talk about what these values actually mean, because they're not always really relevant per se. But what you can tell or get a gauge is that this is actually greater than it previously was the past month. Even though it shows neutral, it still is a positive. These red and greens are only shown in reference to the forecast. They're not shown in reference to the previous. So that's something also important to note too as well. And you could probably see it up here. Like if you were to click on this, you look at the actual. The actual is 2% because it matches up with the forecast, but it's greater than the previous, and the previous is 0.1%, which could also denote to an improvement in the markets or a strengthening in that currency. So for those who are wondering of how to read news, this could gravely help you out. This is actually how I look at news. Also, too, if you want more of a candlestick feel, all you have to do is pull up a graph, and it'll show you. If you were to look at this graph, and hopefully it's not confusing for you, you will see right here, this is the actual. The actual is the blue line, which means that all of these blue bars you see is what the news actually came out to be. The forecast is the gold line, and so you'll be able to see what the news is expected to be, and you should see this gold line. If there was a new news event coming up, you should see a gold line in place before the news even come out, which means that that's what the market is expected to be. It doesn't mean that it's going to be that. It's just that that's what they believe, or that's what consumers or whatever people, that's what they believe it will turn out to be. So also too, the reason why I say you can use a graph is that you can see that if you were to go over here, like look at this bar in total, I mean this chart in total, this graph. It clearly shows that there's been an uptrend in the values of this news event, which means that this news event could progressively be getting better, which means that it probably has a chance. And I'm not saying that this is the case, but it probably has a chance to come out on more of a positive side. And this is just in retrospect to the previous. This is not in retrospect to the forecast, but in retrospect to the previous. Like you can see every month over time that it progressively, it increases, which could also show a strengthening for the currency in retrospect to the new home sales. So, and I could probably see if I could show you guys how a new news event would look. Let me see, because of course this is for February 24th and we're in the 26th. So yeah, it's only a couple news events today. Give me a second. It says Sunday. It may not even have news events here on Sunday. Yep, it doesn't have news event. I guess I don't have any news events on Sunday, so it's probably gonna leave this up. But yeah, that's hopefully this helped you guys out when it comes to reading news. You guys can also read right here certain Forex Factory notes. What is monthly? It's reported in an analyzed format, monthly figure, all this stuff like that. It's a leading. This is also too really good right here. I've also found this to be really good. It says it's a leading indicator of economic health because the sale of new home triggers a wide-reaching ripple effect. For example, furniture and appliances are purchased for the home, a mortgage is sold by the financing bank, and brokers are paid to execute the transaction. When it says that it's a leading indicator of economic health, what you can bank on is the fact that it's probably going to impact the markets in some way, shape, or form. It's going to make it go strongly. It's going to strengthen the USD. So you can kind of use that as a gauge to kind of find out where the market is going to go. Now, if you were to go to low impact news, I doubt I'll probably say the same thing, like BBA mortgage approvals for the GBP. It says low impact, or it says it's leading indicator for housing market demand. But I don't know if people really care about that too much because this is probably low impact news for a reason. But yep, that is all. Hopefully that helped you guys out. And of course, this is not like some set in stone technical indicator that you can go by every single time you look at the news. All it is meant to be a gauge, something that you can gauge upon and get an idea. It's just really made to give you an idea of where the news might go. When you're looking for trades, and you could also place your trades beforehand. You can place your trades, and I would recommend only doing this with Nadex, because in Nadex, if it does end up going in the opposite direction, you can find opportunities to break even, to take profit, or to get out with a stop loss. In binary options, it'll be very difficult to do that, which means that if your estimation was wrong, then you just have to bite the bullet and take the loss. It's not really a way that you can actually exit out on a trade. So that's why I say if they have brokers they should exit out with a little bit of money, that's good. But I would recommend sticking to using this on Nadex, um, and couple it together with 2 hour expiries. Don't do it for the actual hour. You want to give it about 2 hours to expire so that your trade can either come in profit or things can kind of take the effect that they're supposed to take after the news. Because a lot of times we find that when news events come out, uh, and this actually began happening probably about a year ago when I started to see this, because I didn't see it that much before. But the news sometimes will react like a slingshot, which means that it'll probably go in the opposite direction of what the news report said it should. And a lot of times, what that means is and I know you guys seen that in my last video, but simply what it means is that people are probably selling their positions to probably get back in on a position. So you will see like a huge retracement, which the markets will probably retrace greatly, and then they will shoot back up probably like 2 hours later or something like that, or 45 minutes to an hour later. So that's one thing to be mindful of as well. And that's why I say it's best to use it with Nadex, because you can take profits. You can also scout, take profit orders. You can also break even, and you can also do stop losses and things like that. And then also too, you have a 2 hour span to be able to work with those trades, just so that things can kind of work out in due time. So thank you guys for tuning in today. I hope that this was very helpful for you all. And this is me pretty much showing you how to be able to predict the news. And it's not set in stone, but the probability of it is pretty high, and it should be able to help most of you out in your trading. So thank you. Enjoy your day, and happy trading.